Namaste, Hari Om, Tat Sat, Jai Ma, Sitaram. Welcome everybody. Today we're gonna explore Pratyahara. And before we go into this any further, I just want to share that I'm not an authoritative figure on the subject. Everything I'm sharing is just from my own personal experience, my own practice, and I encourage you to do your own research, your own study, your own contemplation, and find your own truth. This is an effort for me to learn more about these subjects, and an effort that hopefully someone will benefit from this sharing. So let's just dive right into it. What is Pratyahara? Pratyahara is, in the context of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the fifth limb of the 8 angas, of the Ashtanga. So Ashtanga means 8, and Pratyahara is the 5th limb. And just to go over the 8 limbs quickly, we have Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. And the Yama and Niyamas cover the most gross expressions of our experience in the world through ethics and morals. And then it moves into the body through asana, and then into the more subtle energetic systems through regulation of the breath, through pranayama, and then from pranayama it goes into the more subtle aspects. And so this is why Pratyahara is like the gateway between the outer world and the inner world, from the material world to the spiritual world in a sense. And so this Pratyahara will naturally develop and bring us into a greater sense of concentration. And as the concentration builds, we naturally unfold into a greater concentration, which ends up being meditation. And when that meditation becomes ripened, it turns into samadhi, or complete absorption into the object of focus. So what is Pratyahara though? Pratyahara is withdrawing of the senses. So that means instead of chasing after the things we smell or taste or touch or hear, any of the senses will chase the objects of the senses, and will avoid things that we don't like. And so through Pratyahara, we are making an effort to no longer run after sense stimulus and to go within. So I'd like to share a story about Shiva and Shani Dev. So Lord Shiva, first of all, is known as the destroyer or the transformer, and he is one of 3 of the Trimurti in Hinduism. So in Hinduism, you have 3 main gods, and the qualities represent the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer. So that's Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, or Shiva. So Shiva it's not a negative form of destruction. Shiva actually represents the transformation of energy from one thing to another. So when Shiva comes in and dances, he might dance out things that are no longer needed for us in order for us to have or to move into the direction that we need to move. And Shiva is often associated with the third eye, and the third eye represents one who is gone beyond duality. Shiva is also known as a great ascetic and the ultimate Mahayogi. So if you are someone who is drawn towards asceticism and deep contemplation and meditation, well, Shiva might be your guy. Who is Shani Dev? So Shani Dev is the god of Saturn, and Shani Dev and Sade Sati, which is related to Jyotish, which is Indian astrology. So when Shani Dev comes into your chart as Sade Sati, it's a time of great learning, and it can be quite challenging. So often our karmas will play out. We'll have to learn lessons and go through trials, purification, transformations, and ultimately we go through accountability and humility. So this is a great time of learning, and these lessons are coming at us regardless of whether we want to go through it or not. So it's like the analogy of getting, drugged behind, kicking and screaming the whole way, or picking up the weight and pumping it and getting stronger and taking it as an opportunity to rise up to the occasion. So in this story, Lord Shiva is sitting on Mt.Kailash, his abode in Tibet, and Shani Dev comes into his chart as Sade Sati, and Shiva decides to act mischievous and go and hide under the lake Manasarovar. And he sits under this lake and he withdraws from the world. He withdraws from his abode on Mount Kailash, and he withdraws from the Leela of everyday life. And he goes and sits under the lake in great deep meditation. And this is an example of Pratyahara, where you're withdrawing from the world around you in order to go into a deeper state of concentration and focus and meditation and samadhi. And it's kind of paradoxical because Shiva thinks he's avoiding the gaze of Shani Dev, but really he's just going right into the austerity and the tapas to purify and to transform. So Mount Kailash is known as Shiva's abode and is in Tibet, and is actually a great pilgrimage place where Buddhists, Jains, Shaivites, and the Bon tradition go and take pilgrimage, and they actually do circumambulation around Kailash, or a parikrama, and then near Kailash is Manasarovar, which is one of the highest freshwater lakes in the world, and it's related to Brahma's consciousness. So Brahma is the creator deity in the Hindu pantheon. So Kailash is also said to be like the axis mundi, or the middle point where heaven and earth, or the spiritual and the material realms meet. And in a sense, Kailash is like Pratyahara itself. It's that middle ground where you're going from the external world into the internal world, or into the higher realms of consciousness. So how do we practice Pratyahara? How do we bring this into daily life? Well, first of all, it's like even in Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga starts with cleansing or cleaning your space, having a clean space, clean your home. It's said in some of the Tibetan Buddhist texts that if you have a clean space, the Buddhas and the ethereal beings are more likely to come and be present there. So, it's good to always have your space clean, as if your greatest teacher was to come visit you. And so through this practice of Pratyahara, the idea is to have a space that's free from distraction. So if your space is free from distraction, like a meditation room, something like that, or even setting up a time where no one's going to bother you and there's no expectations of what you might need to do, this is setting up a place where you can start to go and focus on yourself and focus inward. So this is naturally creating a space where Pratyahara is unfolding. And through having a nice space set up, and then taking care of your body. If your body is fit, you do your asana, you eat well, you do your physical posture practice, and you eat good food, your body is healthy. Your body at that point isn't distracting, because if your body's in pain, well, good luck trying to sit and meditate. So you work on the body, you work on the breath. The breath cleans the nadis, the energetic channels through the body. The asana, the physical posture practice, and the breathing exercises will tone the nervous system. and so that your nervous system will start firing in a more balanced way. And this naturally will allow you to go into the more subtle aspects of your consciousness. And this is allowing Pratyahara to take place. Patanjali takes a slightly different aspect where he starts with yamas and niyamas, like ahimsa, non-violence, non-stealing, telling the truth, and all these things. Whereas in Hatha Yoga, it takes the approach of a more physical dimension. So, but that's kind of a story for another day. What I'm trying to share is what is Pratyahara, and Pratyahara is the practice of going inward and not being so identified with the senses and the objects of the senses, not running after the senses. So I hope this helped elucidate a little bit about Pratyahara and about Shiva and Shani Dev, and helped with your practice in some way. Hari Om, Namaste, Tat Sat, Jai Ma.